The Rock is the latest film from the producing team of Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. Their movies like Flashdance, Beverly Hills Cop, and Top Gun have generated over $3 billion worldwide. The Rock stars Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage as a convict and an FBI scientist who must team up to save San Francisco from a biological weapons attack. The film is dedicated to the memory of Don Simpson. Director Michael Bay, who got his start in advertising, marks his second feature directing effort with this film. Joining me now are producer Jerry Bruckheimer and director Michael Bay. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great.
And congratulations on this. There's a lot to talk about here. Let me begin by talking about this film, since how it came into being and where we are now as it's opened across the country.
Sure. We got involved with it when Joe Roth, who's the head of Disney now, purchased it for his own company. He wanted to produce it.
Right.
And he said, look, I'm now running Disney. I can't do it. It's a picture that I think is a good movie. We read the script. We said, well, it could be a good movie. We want to change a few things, like the characters and part of the story. And he said, go do it.
Right.
So we hired a series of writers, and we convinced this young man sitting across from me to get involved. And he had nothing. He had a script that didn't work. All he had was us. No actors. There was nothing cast.
Right.
And it may be a start date. But we told Michael, we made the last one with you, Bad Boys. We're going to make this one. We'll get you a great cast. We promise you that. And somehow we're going to fix the script. We're going to make this whole thing work. And he just did it on a flyer. He was the hottest director in town. His first picture out does $150 million worldwide, plus the revenues of video and everything else. I'm sure the picture ended up grossing close to $300 million in worldwide grosses in all sources. And he's taken a flyer with us. He's offered everything in the world to do, and he came back, thank God. And we got a good picture again.
But who couldn't make this movie? You got Sean Connery, you got Nick Cage, you got Ed Harris, you got, come on.
Well, it came to that, but
we didn't have it.
We didn't have any of that.
So you get this challenge. What do you do?
Well, you kind of panic. But I was on the phone with these guys almost every day for the summer. I had a lot of ideas, a lot of action ideas. Very expensive, though. My movie in my head was something the studio wasn't prepared for. And Jerry says, we'll convince him. We'll convince him. And we got Nick Cage first, then Sean Connery, and then we got Ed Harris. And that's the unique thing about this action movie. We've got great stars.
What is it that cost a film like this, or Mission Impossible, or other films that you've made like Crimson Tide? Someone called this Crimson Tide in prison.
Right.
What does it cost films like this so much? What is it that makes them so difficult and so expensive?
Shooting action, you've got to take, it's very time-consuming. It takes a lot of shots. Safety is a big importance. I wanted to shoot on Alcatraz. The studio wanted me to shoot some pretty pictures there for 3 days, and I went on a tour, and my mouth dropped open, and I said, we got to shoot.
This is the place.
We got to shoot half the movie here. And
did you prevail?
Yeah, I did.
Sure.
A lot of kicking and screaming.
How do you get permission to shoot on Alcatraz?
You go through the Park Service. The government controls it. We submitted a script. We had to go through. It's a bird sanctuary.
Right.
So we had a lot of problems with
you had
ecology.
To take care of the birds.
And we had to have the bird lady. We had a bird lady. Followed Michael around. So he wouldn't shoot any of his guns near the birds.
Right, exactly.
So we had to deal with that kind of situation. But they gave us permission. And it's just going to help tourism. 3,000 people go there a day. Can you imagine what's going to go on after this picture comes out? Already we've had a world premiere that came out of Alcatraz. First time ever a film's ever projected.
Premiere at Alcatraz?
At Alcatraz, yeah.
Big event. They built a huge theater in the prison yard. I mean, we're talking full tent, blacked, large screen, movie seats.
What's the story? I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, Jerry, why don't you explain
Jerry?
it? Real simple. Ed Harris plays a Marine colonel.
Medal of Honor winner.
Medal of Honor winner.
Distinguished soldier.
That's right. Who lost a lot of men behind enemy lines on covert operations, as the government said, you go do this. They died. Their families got no reparations. So he said, that's not fair. He went to Congress. He did everything he could. Nothing worked.
So first twist we have a good man motivated by the right reason.
That's right. Unfortunately, he takes the wrong means. Right. He goes and steals a bunch of chemical weapons, nerve gas, and puts it on Alcatraz and said, unless my men get the money that they're due, their families, their wives, and their parents get the money that they deserve, I'm going to unleash this horrible gas on San Francisco. So then we have Nick Cage, who's a chemical weapons expert. They bring him into the fold. And the last man ever to escape from Alcatraz, because Alcatraz is built over a Civil War fort. There are all these tunnels and all these access points, and they figure that if they go in the normal way, they'd lose a lot of men. But if they come up under the water and through the bowels, it could be less lives lost. So here comes Sean Connery.
Now, was the casting, was Connery easy? Do you have to convince him to do this?
It was difficult, and we had to convince him. It took, I would say, 6 weeks of really hard lifting on a screenplay with him in London to
Meaning you've got to bring the screenplay around so that it's satisfactory for him in terms of his role and relationship with the other characters.
Exactly. We totally reconceived his role.
Yeah, it's actually...
Where did it go from to what?
It came from a guy who was an American prisoner, and we kind of gave it an international twist, kind of a British operative who was wrongfully imprisoned. And that was Sean's idea.
Yeah, it was all Sean's.
Yeah.
Sean worked really hard. I mean,
he really did.
Give him a lot of credit. I mean, there's a reason his pictures are so interesting, because he really comes to work. He doesn't. You don't hand Sean Connery a script, and he reads the lines. Sean wants to know why, when, and where on every single line.
And he wants to improve
every line.
The day of, he wants to improve it. How can we make it better?
Isn't it nice, though, to have a guy like Nick Cage, who between the time you cast him and make your movie, wins an Academy Award?
Total surprise to him and to us, believe me. Because the day the film came out, Nick said, I got a movie opening today. It's a little picture I did. I just don't know how it's going to do. And I'm concerned about it. I said, well, Nick, you're getting great reviews. I didn't even know you made the movie.
Right.
And the rest becomes history.
All right, let's take a look at a clip from this. Here is Sean Connery, who plays Mason, John Spencer, who plays Womack, and you'll see what happens. Here it is. Wow, that's what it is, huh? Who else? Anybody else we should mention? Ed Harris, clearly, is the
Marine Colonel.
good guy turned bad.
Right.
Yeah.
How much...
Noble bad guy.
Yeah.
What?
Noble bad
Heroic
guy.
bad guy.
Let me talk about selection of director. You mentioned the achievement on the earlier film. There was a story in the New York Times, which I'm sure you saw, by Bernie Weinrob, called "The Market for Young Directors Has Warmed Up." Meaning what? That you're looking for young people that have done something that you can give an opportunity because they suggest, A, because they're less expensive to hire, and B, because they are less dictatorial.
Well, wrong on both counts for me.
Right.
It might be, I can't talk for other producers or for studios. What I look for is talent. That's all I'm concerned with. If I see somebody who has a unique talent, and it can come from anywhere, it can come as a writer, it could come as a cameraman, it could come as a film editor, it could come as a director like Michael is.
You want them on your team because they can help you make a better movie.
You got it. I'm looking for talent because they make me look good. He makes me look great. I mean, I don't have to do a lot of work when I have Michael Bay. Michael works 24 hours a day in the preparation and 18 hours a day when he's filming. We give him 2 hours. We give him 4 hours sleep.
Right. We're going to see some commercials you made. When you were making commercials, is this what you dreamed of doing, though? Making
Always,
movies?
yeah.
From how long ago?
I started directing when I was 24, music videos, then into commercials, and my goal was always to do commercials that had little stories. And I kind of excelled in commercials because I had a knack at doing comedy and shooting beautiful images, and a lot of comedy directors are not good shooters, I guess. So that's how I made my mark in commercials.
When did you know that what you wanted to do was make movies?
When I was 15, I worked at Lucasfilm, and I was filing this really stupid title named Raiders of the Lost Ark, the storyboards.
Right.
And I told all my friends, Spielberg's going to do this movie, and it's going to be terrible. I saw it at the Grauman's Chinese, and that was the moment I'm like, wow, I got to do this.
You got to make movies.
Yeah.
And the only place you could get a chance to work with the tools of the trade was music videos in the beginning.
Well, it was great because music videos were at the height when I got out of film school, and it's a great training ground. I mean, I have so much set experience working 6 years before I did my first feature. Every week shooting.
How do you work with Jerry? I mean, who's a producer with a track record, who's a producer with a reputation for taking a very hands-on approach to everything he does?
I mean, I think we've got similar sensibilities. He's taught me a lot about script. I I've taught him a few things, generational things, but I think it's sensibilities. It works very well.
Don Simpson. How much was he involved in this film?
He was involved in the beginning phases of making the picture. He was involved in the script process quite a bit. And I think we lost him about halfway, a little better than halfway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Film's dedicated to him.
Yes.
Remember him for us, because he was on this broadcast with you the last time you were here when Crimson Tide was released. I mean, there was a unique partnership.
Right.
Before he died, you'd gone separate ways.
Right. We were together since '82. I've known him for 25 years. When I first came to this town, I met him. He was a young, brash, brilliant man. He ran a studio. He was the president of Paramount. We became partners once he left that job and started making movies. He taught me an enormous amount. I mean, he lives on through me and through our work. And his spirit will always be around. It's around this movie. He was, you know, a brother to me.
Roll tape. Here's a conversation that took place on this broadcast at the release of Crimson Tide.
There are a number of ways to approach it, but the way Jerry and I have always worked is we look around for the venue, we look around for the notion, the central spark, and we have a tendency to work on it ourselves. You know, what's the fundamental shape going to be? What's the point of view? What's the direction? And it's important for us to be able to embrace the thematic factors, the emotionality factors, and be able to say, we have a real strong point of view about the tale we want to tell. Sometimes we'll take it further than we did in this movie, but in this movie's case, we had the venue, and we had the direction, and then you look for a writer.
Yeah.
And, you know, we found a man named
You look for many writers.
And sometimes you look for writer after writer after writer.
Yes, we do.
And sometimes
we rewrite and rewrite and
you hire the writer, then you hire another writer, another writer, another writer.
Which is our case here, is it?
Well, the truth of the matter is, yes and no. Michael Schiffer, the man who gets screenplay credit, deserves the screenplay credit he got. He did yeoman-like work and provided the blueprint for this picture. It's also true that there were a couple, or 3 or 4 other writers involved who came in and provided flourishes, provided colors, added to the palette,
People
as it
like
were.
Oscar-winning Quentin Tarantino? Or,
Yes, and Oscar-winning Robert Towne, and you know,
Steve Zalian, another Oscar
Zalian, another Oscar winner. It's actually kind of interesting, the fact that we had 2 Oscar-winning actors and 3 Oscar-winning screenwriters. I mean, you know, one of the secrets that Jerry and I have found to be very valuable is, if you want to look smart, hire incredibly smart people.
You're preaching the same sermon there, aren't you, Jerry?
Oh, yeah, I told you, he lives on.
He does.
That was a nice piece, wasn't it?
A great piece.
You know, I mean,
Great piece.
it's the guy you remember.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He was, you haven't spoken about him publicly at all, just because it's too personal, too private, too too controversial?
Well, what went on between Don and I went on between Don and I. It's going to remain that way. And it's very hard for me to talk about him. I mean, because of the closeness and the feelings I have. And, you know, like I said, when you lose somebody you've been close to for 25 years, it's a brother to you, hopefully you've never had that experience. It's very hurtful.
I haven't, no.
It's very hurtful. So
Even
it's hard at this point for me to talk about it.
Yeah, because you guys had spilt blood on the floor working together in a sense of of 2 people with strong opinions, but who found a kind of collaboration that served both of you.
Absolutely. It's something that we looked at a cup or whatever it was. We had the same point of view, which is unusual to meet somebody, to have that kind of camaraderie, whatever you want to call it, to see things almost the same way. It was in movies, it was in clothing, it was in art, it was in most material things.
But it seems to me, the amazing thing about Don Simpson, who I never met but once, but it turned out that he was a big fan of this program, is that you were very different too. You had this collaboration that made movies that did dynamite at the box office for the most part. Yet you were different kinds of people, full of your own contradictions. It's fair to say that.
Absolutely. Completely opposite.
His lifestyle is different from your lifestyle.
Opposite.
You know. Yet somehow, despite all of that, for the most part, the partnership
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why it clicked. You know, they say opposites
Came from different
attract.
places.
Came from different places. He was a Southern Baptist from Alaska. You know, I'm a big city kid. I grew up in Detroit. So completely different backgrounds. My parents came from both from Germany. He's 100% American. You know, I don't know how many generations he came out of Alaska. So it was just strange that we met, or fortuitous that we met, and we had this great partnership.
Did you fear it would end?
Did I fear it would end?
No, not the partnership, but the life, because of his huge appetite for everything.
You always fear that for anybody you really like.
That you care about and love.
Oh, of course. You know, I'd be disingenuous to say the kind of lifestyle he'd lead could cause a lot of problems, both for his health and for other
Did he know
things.
that at all?
Or
Or do you just think you're larger than that?
I think he thought he was smarter than everybody else, and could do what he wanted to do, and until he didn't want to do it anymore. And you know, he'll never get old. He'll always be what we just saw.
Like John Kennedy.
That's right.
Congratulations, my friend. Good to see you.
Great. Good to see you again. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.